You were PE?
I was. Those little ones, yeah.
I would have thought you would have been in the humanities.
Well, that was it as I grew. Not really, didn't grow. Anyway, we're glad to have you all here tonight to Green Drinks. I am Leslie Krebs tonight. She isn't here, she's in California. So I have cliff notes for her, so I think I'll do my best, right? I wanted, first of all, to introduce our committee and two people that are going off the committee. I want to thank them so much for their help. Judy. And Nancy Williamson, right? We're going to miss them both. And myself and Nancy Sichel are here tonight. And Destiny. Oh yeah, Lynn. Lynn is hiding in the corner. I'm sorry, Lynn. Yeah. So anyway, if you have any topics that you're interested in hearing about, please just stop by and suggest them tonight, because we're always looking for new topics. So, also I need to know if there's any, if they want to, any new people here tonight. All right. Yeah, welcome. Please, welcome back. Yeah, we're glad to have you, and looking forward to many more times for visiting for great topics. Tonight, Leslie wanted to make sure that I told how many groups there are throughout the world. Green Drinks is international. It started in England and is all over the world. Right now we have 330 active worldwide chapters of Green Drinks. And the new ones are Monterey Nail in Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, Bathurst, Australia. Any of you been to any of these places?
Yeah,
Been there? All right. Kingsville, Leamington, Canada. Anybody been there? Northwest Arkansas. Say where? It's somewhere in Northwest Arkansas.
If you just say Northwest, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Been there.
Oh, well, there, he's been there. All right. San Jose, Costa Rica. Love that place. Right? Yeah. And Columbus, Ohio. Been there. Those are the new ones, right? So we want to especially thank environmental defenders. I mean, without them, we would not be here. Linda's Destiny, a staff person, and do all of our emails and so many things that help us out. And of course, Duke's Ale House. Woo, we started here and we've been here 12 years, if I have it right. They are amazing, a green certified restaurant, and they give us the space for no charge, and just have been amazing hosts. And now they have totally publicized it even more, which gives us much more visibility. So we thank Zach for that as well. So without further ado, we'll go over, highlight what's happening next month. We have an exciting duo coming. Jeff Miller and Simon Gibson from the Fox Valley Electric Car Association. They're going to give us the scoop because they've been involved in this group forever and have been both have electric cars and have their own charging stations at their home, and they're just amazing. Are going to talk about purchasing an EV versus EV hybrid, the federal tax credits and the state credits, and they even mentioned talking about the rollout of EV charging stations across the country. So they're going to do some myth busting about EVs. So I think this is going to be a great program next month. So looking forward to that. So
What's the date on that?
had to ask me the date do we have? I think it's the 3rd.
Yeah,
Is that right?
sounds right.
August 3rd? Is that correct? Do I get a prize?
First Wednesday of the month.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so without further ado, Nancy Secho will introduce our program for tonight.
And it's my pleasure tonight to get to introduce two people that I count as my friends. And so eager to hear about their presentation tonight because they're here to tell us all about the 10th year anniversary of the Hackmatack National Wildlife Refuge. And we've got Steve Byers here. He's the current chair of the Friends of Hackmatack, and he's one of the founding members of the group. He's retired now and has become a professional volunteer like many of us in the room. His professional background includes serving 29 years as the field representative for the Illinois Nature Preserves Commission, and he's also a retired retired from the U.S. Army Reserve as a colonel and chief of staff for the 330th Medical Brigade. So he's joined by Nancy Williamson, who is also a retired professional volunteer. She is also one of the founding members of the Friends of the Wildlife Refuge, and she's the treasurer for the group also, and a master and a whiz at writing grants, and that's one reason this group is so successful. Nancy retired from the IDNR as a Watershed Manager for the C2000 Program with responsibility for the whole northern Illinois region. And she's now taking her skills, or has taken her skills, not only to help with the Friends of Hackmatack, but also she's serving now on the board of the Natural Land Institute, which is the land trust that handles basically everything west of this county all the way to the Mississippi River. So it's a large land trust. So please welcome them and let's learn about Hackmatack.
Thank you, Nancy. It's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to have everybody repeat after me. Hackmatack.
Hackmatack.
Okay, it kind of rhymes with Big Mac attack. So keep that in mind. And actually, though, Hackmatack is an Algonquin Indian word for tamarack tree. And many of you, I know, already are aware of that. We're going to go through just very briefly some history, to provide some context to where we are today. But back a number of years ago, a number of people began to dream about establishing a refuge. And we dreamed for 8 years before the refuge was formally established. So a few pleasant dreams and a few nightmares along the way, but success nonetheless. And we began actually by building the case for a refuge. Why did it make sense? And when you talk to the Fish and Wildlife Service, that means you talk about wildlife, birds, mammals. And so we actually showed how the refuge supported many different wildlife action plans, including one that called for conservation priorities within this region served by the Fish and Wildlife Service. And we began to reach out and establish connections with a lot of different conservation groups. Pictured here, Elizabeth Kessler with the district, and at the time Lynn and Dave were on the board of the Conservation District. We were presenting them with the Tamarack Award for their support. Also pictured there is Jerry Adelman, CEO of Open Lands in Chicago. We really wanted to make the case for the refuge, the biological case, and actually that was the easiest part of selling the refuge. We also realized that we needed to really make a case for why the refuge was important to people. And we did that by working with local communities and sharing with them some interesting information about how the refuge would complement their smaller communities, particularly Richmond and Chinoa City. But we also shared with them some facts. Refuges are important economic engines. We even had a local study conducted by Fermata that provided some estimates on how valuable the refuge would be economically to the region. And you can see there that estimated that visitors would spend between $7 and $25 million annually at the refuge once it was built out. And quite frankly, every opportunity that presented itself, we took the show on the road. This is Nancy with some of the displays and posters highlighting the refuge, but also some of the activities that we were engaged in. As part of the process, we learned that eventually the Fish and Wildlife Service were going to be conducting open houses, 2 in Illinois and 2 in Wisconsin, and we realized that part of our job was actually to find supporters, round up supporters for the refuge, to make an appearance and express their opinion about the value and the importance that a refuge would bring. Here are some of our supporters with Tom Larson with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and we feel we succeeded in that regard. This is an opinion piece from the Woodstock paper. We support the refuge. And then many of you are aware that through a process, eventually the refuge was established. Secretary Interior Ken Salazar and Senator Durbin attended an event at the Lost Valley Visitor Center establishing a creation of the refuge. And this is Ed with some pretty heavy hitters here in that ATV talking about wildlife, the district, what they're doing, and also the importance and value of the refuge. And so, the refuge was formally established on November 6th, 2012, Election Day, with a lot of help from a lot of friends. Okay? It didn't happen by itself, but finally it was a dream realized. And many of you have seen this map. This is the footprint of the refuge. The areas in green are established public holdings, primarily by the Conservation District. And then in brown are the core areas, here, here, there, and there. And these core areas are large enough to support a wide variety of wildlife species, particularly grassland birds, wetland birds that require a large amount of land before they'll be attracted to that particular location. And then the lighter brown are some of the corridors that connect those core areas. And this is a classic example of good conservation planning to provide for the needs of wildlife species. Hackmatack is this nation's 561st U.S. National Wildlife Refuge, and at full build-out, the refuge could conceivably provide protection for about 11,100 acres of land. That's on top of the 10 to 12,000 acres that's already owned by the Conservation District. Now, between you and me and the fence post, that's going to be a long-term process, and some of you here, your grandchildren could end up being the refuge manager. It's going to be a long process. And the goals here, as you see them, provide habitat for grassland and wetland-dependent birds, provide for the traditional recreational values associated with refuges, and then thirdly, to provide and promote science, education, research, and encourage stewardship of our natural resources. So I'm going to provide now a very quick update on the land that has been protected over the course of the last 10 years. But again, the Friends could not do that by themselves. And actually, there's a partnership that has formed the Hackmatack Conservation Partnership, consisting of these 12 organizations that have all pledged to work together to help build and promote Hackmatack National Wildlife Refuge. And that's a real success. Each of these organizations and the boards have signed MOUs, committing themselves and their organizations to that effort. And there has been support from many different sources. Several $1 million have been provided from the Illinois Clean Energy Foundation to open land for acquisition of land. Most recently, the Fish and Wildlife Service has received funding from the Land and Water Conservation Fund and the Migratory Bird Conservation Fund. And these funds are then earmarked for acquiring land that has already typically been pre-acquired by open land. And then I want to point out that the district has been a strong supporter, as well as the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. And then I want to also acknowledge the role of private individuals in protecting land through conservation easements. And to date, I want to just point out these dark green specks here, spots, parcels, are lands that have been acquired primarily by open lands or have been protected through conservation easements. I think actually 29 parcels, now totaling just over 2,000 acres, have been protected through the effort of our land protection partners. And let me back up one here. I outlined in red, many people frequently ask, well, where can I go to visit the refuge? And the areas in red are the ones that have been now conveyed officially to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And we hope that another 3 or 4 may actually be conveyed to the Fish and Wildlife Service this year. And so I'm going to just show you a few of those images. This is a Turner tract up in Wisconsin along the Goose Pond corridor. The Friends have been working here with regard to stewardship. This is off of Route 47, the Queen Anne Prairie Corps area. And then finally, the Tamarack Corps area up near Richmond. I want to point out Todd Boonstra is our first refuge manager, and I'm pleased that, hand up here, girl. I just met her this evening. This is Kathy Skaggs, our new refuge manager, and she just started yesterday. So I asked her if she wanted to say a few words. She can say hi, or we'll cut you off at 5 minutes.
Well, thank you so much for that warm welcome, Steve. I want to first just talk about Steve and Nancy, for this warm welcome, as well as how unique this situation is, Hackmatack in general. You don't hear about this very often, a community effort to just create a refuge, and how strong, and the dream team is what I hear so often about this French group here. So that is very unique, and I'm so excited to get to work with all of you and get to know you. As he said, this is my second day on the job, but probably my 3rd or 4th day in the area, so I'm pretty brand new, but everything I've seen is just absolutely beautiful, and I can't wait to see more of it. So
let's give her a round. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Nancy.
Okay. All right. I've had wine, so be
Warning program.
It's green drinks.
Okay. We have a lot of things going on, and we have over the years. Many of you are aware of this, but we have our outreach efforts and our things we do every year. We established it before we became a group, and we continued before we were official, and we continued it. So we have quarterly gatherings that we do every year. And we have our, one of the things, and I have to credit Cindy Scrookrud, a lot of you know Cindy Scrookrud, but Sierra Club, with doing the inner city outings, which we call now Inspiring Connections, where they give kids
from the inner city an opportunity to come out. And believe me, you take those kids out, you walk them in streams, they're going to places they've never been at. It is a learning experience for me and for them. It is really a wonderful thing. So we do those types of outings. And then we have a collaboration with the McHenry County Conservation District, with the Land Conservancy of McHenry County, and the Defenders, and us with CDC. Can somebody say this properly in Spanish for me?
Conservación de Conversación.
Thank you, thank you. There's a very big Hispanic population in our area, many of which are from the area where the monarchs migrate to. And yeah, it's been very interesting to learn that. We learned that from the housekeeper at Resurrection Center on Woodstock, or in Woodstock. So we work with that group, trying to bring people of different backgrounds into conservation. It's going to be important for our
I
future.
think they're building a pollinator garden this summer.
Right.
It was built up
Yes.
at in McHenry.
Okay. Jump in, anybody. We do International Migratory Bird Day. We do it, and I have to point out, we do it with all these partners. You cannot be in an urban, suburban area like we are without doing it with partners. And so we work with IDNR and Sierra Club and Audubon and all these people to do some of our regular work. And Migratory Bird Day is a big one in the spring. And then we have our Monarch Mania Family Fun Fair. We're going on our 7th year at Crystal Lake, Maine Beach. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. And then we have a thing called the Big Sit. It's very strange, but everybody comes in, sits in one geographic area and reports every bird they see. And we have amazing people come who are learning for the first time to learn, to use binoculars to identify birds. It's a fascinating experience, and we do it up at Glacial Park. So, okay, we have In Search of Eagles. This is usually in a horribly cold January day. and that actually was a pretty good day, and that little guy wanted his little brother to be in the middle of the nest that he built, because we showed him how big an eagle's nest was. But that was a nicer day than normal. But we get amazing people from very far away, and we generally target the dams in the area, because eagles are basically kind of lazy, and they're going to catch the fish that come over the dams and where it's open. So we do it at a number of places that have that kind of opportunity along the Fox River, and we get a lot of people there. McHenry Dam. Pardon me?
Raptor show too.
Oh yes, and we have the Raptor show. The people come out from central Illinois. Oh, okay. Anyway, funded by U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and we get 100 people for each show. We do 2 shows over at Prairie View with the Conservation District. So we work with partners on all of these, and people come out in all kinds of weather. We do our Hackmatack work days. These are crazy. We have lots of people come out, and during COVID we had even more people coming out. But these are kids from Harvard High School working on a parcel owned by Open Lands that came out for our Hackmatack work day. So we have an amazing group of people, and we keep building and building on people who understand how to do invasives. Okay, in fact, we worked so hard, we got nominated actually by our former refuge manager. And we're a bi-state refuge. We're Wisconsin and Illinois, and we got nominated for the Invader Crusader Award for a not-for-profit. Steve and I went up and accepted the award, but basically it was for all the work days, and we have a very good board member, Pete Jackson, who is a maniac at doing this kind of restoration. So anybody who feels like they need to do restoration, you've got your little bookmarks. You can go there. our restoration days are there. It's great fun. It's great fun to bring your kids to and everything. Okay, one of the other things we did was we wrote grants. And we wrote grants to help restore the properties that were being bought sometimes by other entities and eventually going to Fish and Wildlife. We figured we might as well get it jump-started and get things restored. So we did a very good job with 2 challenge grants from Illinois Clean Energy Community Foundation, a private foundation, to do restoration on 2 parcels. And we had to do a lot of fundraising. Now, I want to bring this one up because this happened by surprise. But right now, it's pending, but we're waiting on almost $1 million grant.
Wow.
From Lauren Underwood. As you know, in our area Lauren was, now she's kind of been moved over and we have different, but I just have to tell you a short story. We got the call that we had made it through the first round while Steve and I, just full disclosure, Steve and I are married. Okay. We took we were in Home Depot getting a new toilet seat because the 3-year-old and the 5-year-old had broken it. Steve is driving them down the aisles like a maniac with those, they've got those big things with the steering wheels, and the 2 of them are in there and he's driving them back and forth and he gets a call and he goes, "This is Washington." And they were calling to tell us that we'd made it through the first round. Wow. and that they loved our grant. Why the grandkids were squealing. So anyway, we are waiting for it to go through the process. Hopefully everything makes it through the process. But this is a parcel up near Glacial Park. Wow. They've done all of this, they're called 206 projects with the Army Corps, to re-meander the Nippersink, to reduce the flooding, to improve the water quality. They've done a fabulous job. These are 2 headwater streams, essentially 3 headwater streams, that need to be reconstructed where they were channelized. A very expensive thing to do, but we took on that parcel. It belongs to open land, so hopefully watch our website. It'll make it all the way through. But right now we made it through 3 levels. We'll see what happens. Oh, sorry. I got a little excited. Okay. I want to point out our new website. We have new board members these last couple of years, some of whom are very talented, one of whom is very good with website. As I said to you all, we're in the 23rd century in our website, so you have to go to our website. It's very easy to navigate. You can go through all sorts of interesting things, but one of the things you can go through is a history of Hackmatack. And it's a lovely timeline thing that you can go through. So you look under About Hackmatack, there's the timeline, and you just go through it. It's just kind of fun to navigate and see the background of how we became what we are. And I want to say the Fish and Wildlife kind of laugh at us. They're used to a lot of areas not loving natural resources. We are in an area where people really love their natural resources, and they were very pleased at all the support they got in the area. So, okay, another thing we have is a blog. And we have a writer who came, she lived in this area, she came back to this area, she lives in Genoa City, and she was a nature center person down in Texas. She came back, she joined our board. She's writing a blog about all the nature in our area, okay? So it's fun to read those. She keeps you up to date on what are in our parcels, what she's seeing. You know, we've seen the pileated up in Genoa City, nesting actually, so that's kind of cool. So you can kind of explore and maybe come visit. All right, so we're into the save the date parts. We are having our 7th annual, it would be 8th if we hadn't had COVID, but 7th annual. This is what it looks like. Monarch Family Fun Fair. It's hilarious. We get like 700 people in 3.5 hours at Crystal Lake, Main Beach. Part of the reason we're there is because also there are many, many Hispanic families who are actually, spending the Sunday there. And so we have Hispanic ambassadors, people who are of the culture and speak the language, and they go out and bring them. And we have our quiz in English and Spanish, and we've had a great success in bringing all sorts of people in, because the monarchs winter in Mexico and head all the way up to Canada. So we need to bring our whole continent together to look at that. So we're working on it. One of the other fun things we're doing is we're going to have a presentation at George Williams College in Lake Geneva, and that's going to be September 13th. You have to register for it. We have limited seating, but if you're familiar with this person, Chad was the CNN Hero of the Year in 2013. Just an everyday person, just a regular person, grassroots kind of guy who ended up doing all this work along the Mississippi that nobody else could get done. And so he's going to be talking. We'd love to have you there for the presentation. So you watch our website, that's why you got your bookmarks, and you have to register, okay? So please join us up in George Williams, and Lake Geneva is always lovely to visit.
Nancy, could we mention that?
What?
Be Zoomed?
Pardon me?
Will the presentation be Zoomed?
I do not think so. No, I do.
But
Yeah.
if some of you would like to know more about Chad Bagracki and get a chance to learn a little bit about him before that show, or after that show, he runs the organization called Living Lands and Waters.
Right.
And he has that's a Facebook page. You can just or Google
Yeah.
it, Living Lands and Waters. You will be amazed. He's the
Yeah.
living example of what one person can
What
do
one
when
person
they
can do,
say
what one-
something needs to be done.
Yeah, and from the bottom up. So, that's what kind of where Hackmatack came from. Everybody just said we want to do this, and it happened. Okay, the other thing I want everybody to look at is from the bottom up, and everyone art show, okay? We are going to have an annual meeting, and we're going to have an art show with that annual meeting, and I would love people who are artistic, but you don't have to be a professional to apply for it. We're looking for, photography, landscapes, painting, sculpture, fabric art, if you're a quilter, stained glass, whatever kind of thing, and writing too. If you have writing, we would like to feature the nature of Hackmatack, of our area, and why you care about this. A lot of people here, you're here because you care. And so if you have feelings about it and you produce something, please submit, okay? The deadline is October 1st, I'm sorry. And you go online, use your bookmarks, go online, go to the art show, okay? And you can get right to it. Or we also have some little flyers back there that actually have, this will take you directly to the art show. It is from 4 to 104. So if you go right to it, you can apply, and we'd love to have your stuff up to show for our annual meeting about what we all think about Hackmatack. We are going to have our annual meeting at the Dole Center in Crystal Lake. Does people know where that is in general? Right. The part of their mission is arts that's their main mission, arts and people. And so we hope to not only decorate this big room where we're going to wine and dine you, okay, and also the old part of the Dole Mansion with all of your work. So that's something we're doing for the annual meeting, and along with looking at the artwork. Oops, went too fast. We're going to have presentations from Ed Collins and John Rodner. Ed Collins is with McHenry County Conservation District and one of our visionary people. And John Rodner, who is currently with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, but was with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. He's the assistant director right now with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. But they're going to reminisce about the beginnings of the refuge, okay? So, also too, well, some of you guys got your pre-meet. Yeah, but she's going to be features. And that's going to be November 8th. Now, that's election day, so vote early, not often. But it's going to be from 5 to 9, okay? And you can, you know, take your wine, take your little nashi stuff and walk around and look at what people have presented. So please, you know, consider registering. There's limited space too, but registering for our annual meeting, okay? All right, so all of the information is on our website, which is Hackmatack NWR National Wildlife Refuge.org, or you can just Google Hackmatack National Wildlife Refuge, or you can use your bookmarks and just scan. Okay. So, and as we say in here, nothing happens unless first a dream. So, any questions from anybody about what we're doing? No?
You probably said this, but could you repeat the total number of acres that are now part of Hackmatack National Wildlife Refuge?
Well, 3 properties have been officially conveyed to the Fish and Wildlife Service at this time, but 29 different parcels totaling close to 2,000 acres have been acquired by our land protection partners or protected through private individuals through conservation easements. And many of those parcels we hope will be conveyed to the Fish and Wildlife Service. In fact, with the funding that you saw that was made available, we anticipate that perhaps 3 additional properties will be conveyed to the Fish and Wildlife Service this year. Now, that's the goal, but sometimes the schedule that I'm hoping for isn't reality. So, but we do hope that 3 additional properties will soon be conveyed to the Fish and Wildlife Service.
So it's somewhere over 2,000 right now? 2,000
Just over 2,000 acres have been pre-acquired and protected.
And spread from how big of an area? Like from where up through, you said, into southern Wisconsin?
Well, it extends on the west from near Alden all the way to Richmond, so that's quite a distance.
Okay.
And then north into Wisconsin. One of the parcels that's been acquired by the Fish and Wildlife Service, the Turner parcel,
Okay.
is just north of Genoa City on Highway H,
Okay.
on the way to Lake Geneva.
Okay.
And then the properties then also extend as far south as Glacial Park,
Okay.
and a little to the west. There are several properties there that have been protected through conservation easements through our land protection partners.
Okay. I work up like in Burlington, Wisconsin, so I know
Okay.
it's
Oh,
pretty familiar.
yeah, that's a little bit further northeast.
further
of
northeast,
where we
yeah.
are, yeah. Question in the back?
What's the significance of it being transferred to the Fish and Wildlife, other than Cassie's job?
Well, we have another partner to help manage the property, but many of these properties, I would say probably well over half, probably 2/3 of the properties have been acquired by open lands with financial support from Illinois Clean Energy and or members of open lands or their board. Ed and I and others have met with several members of their board to talk about Hackmatack, and there's a lot of excitement there. This is one of their priority projects. And so they're typically in the position of pre-acquiring these properties with funds from Illinois Clean Energy, but they don't intend to hold them forever. They don't have the resources to manage them, and so frequently then we look to see those properties eventually conveyed to the Fish and Wildlife Service once they have the funds available for acquisition. Because frequently open lands can move more quickly than the Fish and Wildlife Service.
However, one of the big things we're looking forward to in the future is if we have enough refuge lands, we are approved to have a refuge center, a national, and if you've ever been to any of the National Wildlife Refuge, what do you call it? Visitor centers. They are fabulous. They do nothing by halves in there. They are beautiful. And so once we accumulate enough lands under Fish and Wildlife, eventually that process will go in. We'll have one of those kinds of centers. So that's the hope that we'll build up to there.
But don't hold your breath. Right now, we're lucky to get the approximately 1.5 million that went to the Fish and Wildlife Service to help buy those 3 properties.
And you know how expensive land is here.
Yeah.
So,
Questions over here?
I was wondering about wildlife and birds. Are they keeping track of what's on the property?
Well, our first refuge manager was pulled in about 25 different directions, and really, I think, depended upon volunteers to begin to compile species lists of wildlife, birds, mammals, and so actually he looked to the volunteers to help begin to compile that information. So it depends, I think, in part upon the interest of the individual refuge managers, but Todd was our first refuge manager, and if he wasn't up here at Hackmatack, he was down at Kankakee and was pulled, I think, in about 20 different directions at any given point in time. So that was simply not a priority to begin with.
however, there is right now a rusty patch bumblebee survey going on, and we're coordinating with a number of other groups there and coordinating with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So when things like that happen, even bat studies, all those things, we're all partnering together. We all learn, they reach out, and we're all trying to do that together. So Fish and Wildlife allows for that connection to do those kinds of things.
Will there be any mixed use, hunting, solar farms, grazing, the kind of issues you see in other refuges? Or is it protected from all that?
Did you hear the question?
I'm sorry.
Mixed use. Will there be mixed use?
Like
Solar farms, hunting?
Oh, well, typically these lands are acquired for their conservation values, and if you, I think probably that's what the primary use would always be, and probably not be an appropriate place for a solar farm. I think there are many other privately owned properties or other properties, like the ones owned by the defenders, where they could establish a
No,
solar
I'm not
farm.
saying there should be, I'm saying that this has been a problem in other natural areas that are opened up for other uses. And
Well, I would not want to speak for Cassie here now, but I think that the uses are very restrictive on wildlife refuge, and the uses are really intended to maintain or improve wildlife numbers and wildlife diversity.
And I can speak a little to that, Steve. So typically with refuges, things are closed unless you open them. It's different than like a national park or something like that. So if an area is, say, for hunting, then that's for hunting, but there's also recreational areas. We might not want that to overlap, right? If you have bikers and things out there, maybe someone wants to view waterfowl and take pictures, but if you have duck hunters out there, you're going to have some overlap. So I think as I learn more about where it's appropriate for all these uses, then those decisions will be made. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but some of these are open to, especially recreation, some of it's biking, hiking, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yes.
One of the things we learned from Minnesota Valley National Wildlife Refuge, because we went up and studied that, because that's an urban area right near Minneapolis, and when they showed us the refuge footprint, I was like, what are all those holes in there? It didn't look like it was connected. And then the refuge manager showed me, and they had like areas that were privately owned by farmers, but they're being managed for grassland birds. And so they don't mow at the wrong time. So they showed us the connectivity, and they showed us, so that's one of the things we hope to work with. You may have an easement on a farmland, or you may simply have a management agreement where you don't mow when, you've got the diminishing grassland birds nesting in there. So that's what it's all different ways to work with it when you have so many interests,
I would say a lot of national wildlife refuges, they are created for a purpose, and it's based off the mission of that refuge. So I've been to some where the mission and the purpose was really strange. It might have been farming and industry, recreation. So you had an industrial complex there. Like I came from Crab Orchard, and that was part of the reason that refuge was created, to provide those jobs there. And as Steve mentioned, he went through for Hackmatack what those reasons for the creation of this refuge was. And one that really sticks out to me, which is kind of cool, is like the research and the engagement with an urban community and getting the next generation involved. So I think that's pretty exciting. So you have to go and look back at what the mission and the purpose of the refuge is and kind of stick to that. So that's kind of how I foresee this moving forward. I'm learning more too.
Yeah, and we talk about that, and Cassie's always going back to, okay, but is this conservation minded? And that's all the time. And so I'm like, you've got somebody whose heart is like, but is this conservation minded? And that's the direction that at least Cassie with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service goes. I don't know half of this stuff. I'm just sitting here.
This is my partner, Danny.
Yeah. So, but that's like the bottom line is like, is this going to help conserve the natural wildlife and what we need to do? So, I mean, that's pretty straightforward.
There's another question back there.
Other than the 29 acres or spots that you mentioned, are there other, like if someone has a farm up there in the area, are there certain areas that you have like said that you might want, or are there certain properties or certain things about the property that might make it more enticing than another?
Okay. Well, we'll show you the map again of but the priorities will be to protect land within those 4 core areas, and then as other opportunities present themselves, we're still going back.
Yeah. We had a lot of science. Okay.
We're close now.
There
One more.
it is.
Keep going, keep going.
Oh, keep going?
Yeah.
It's there.
You don't like that one?
No, there's another one.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Keep going. One more. There's.
Okay. Okay.
So the priorities again are these areas in brown, and not all of those brown areas have been protected to date. So that would be where naturally the priority is for land acquisition. But then as there are opportunities, this design is called a core and corridors concept that allows for large blocks of habitat to support wildlife, but then the corridors also allow for movement of wildlife from one core area to another, which is really important in maintaining species richness and biodiversity. And the corridors are actually arrayed along the south branch of the Nippersink and also the north branch of the Nippersink. And so properties that lie within the footprint of the refuge, primarily brown, but also the light brown, really represent the priorities at this point in time. Now that doesn't mean that if there's something right outside a core that it wouldn't be considered, for example. And there are a number of properties that have been protected that are just outside the footprint of the refuge, but still are important from a landscape perspective because of the hydrological connection or other connections that still exist. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, I guess I have a family member that's got a farm up right on the border between Genoa and they're in Richmond.
Oh, well, we like to talk to you about that.
They are though. They're not ready to sell by any means, but I was just curious, was there if there was, some, but the landscape had to have something. They've been in a family farm for generations, so
Well, there's a lot of it currently being farmed.
it's all being farmed, yeah.
Well, we realize that, and in fact, that's we've worked really cooperatively with Ducks Unlimited, Pheasants Forever, to secure additional funding to pull field drain tiles and to plant what was previously cropland into prairie or begin to establish oak savannas. So we've been doing a lot of that as well.
But even looking at, working with farmers and looking at the federal farm programs to provide buffer strips to, or any kind of wetland recreation or forest recreation, our refuge manager will work to help that happen. Yeah.
So here is Genoa City right there, and this is the Turner parcel off of Highway H. So I don't know if you're close to there or not.
That's where the pileated is.
So, okay. Other questions? If not, thank you for participating with us in really to a celebration of 10 years of Hackmatack National Wildlife Refuge, and we hope that you'll be able to join us for some of our events actually celebrating that occasion, attending the presentation by Chad, maybe learning more about monarchs, or attending our annual meeting. We hope
Or
that you'll all
submitting
make
any of your artistic endeavors.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Time for announcements.
Tell them what Vince does. Monarchs are the living
Yeah, one more thing. We're going to take a little bit of time to do announcements. So what happens is that you've got 1 minute to give us your announcement about your whatever your organization is, and any special events, etc., coming up. Nancy.
Thank you. I am Nancy Garcia from the Wildflower Preservation and Propagation Committee. And this time of year we do many great things. We have a national landscaping seminar, which has been on hiatus due to COVID, but we're planning to be back next February at the college. We do a plant sale in May at the college. And this time of year we do walks on the wild side. So every month we have a great natural yard walk. This year on July 23rd, we will have a walk at the home of Sarah and Scott McHale. Sarah is from the Conservation at Home program at the Land Conservancy to see what she's done in her yard. So I hope you all will come. And really quickly, I have to also say we're working on a project with the City of Crystal Lake. We're doing these fabulous, huge rain gardens. I'm talking about buying up blocks and raising houses in the flooding area of the lake, and we just finished planting one today. I'm done. So if anybody is interested in participating, come and see me.
Nice job. Anyone else? Yep.
Okay, I'm Marty Gorman. I'm with the Food Shed tonight, as usual. And I just wanted to keep you up with what's going on. There's lots and lots of work being done behind the scenes. Things are falling into place. Thank you, universe. We have an owner meeting coming up on September 27th, also at the Dole Mansion. So keep an eye out for that on Facebook and also on our website. If you want any more information, just in case there might be one person in here who is not a Food Shed owner already, we've got some cards back here. Thank you.
Nice job. Anyone else? Yeah.
Yes, continuation of our food forest program that we had last month. Karen Wenzel meant to mention about the value of the food forest as a way to sequester carbon. So they have land that they're working with just south of Woodstock, Apple Creek. That's as far as I know of the name. That is actually sequestering carbon. So besides being an amazing thing for fruits and for all kinds of wildlife and plants, it also is helping reduce our climate footprint. So just wanted to throw that out.
Anyone else? Can't see who's back there. Oh, can't.
So before you go to the Hackmatack Cool thing on Tuesday the 8th, Saturday before that is, you know what, you love it, the Green Living Expo is back. Saturday, November 5th at the college from 10 to 3 will be live and in person. We have secured a 3,000-gallon fish tank and 2 vegan vegetarian food trucks. If you know anybody who wants to sign up, we're definitely taking vendors right now, and we're very interested. Just come to the Sustainability Center website, which is easy. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay. Nancy?
I'll just mention that if you get tired of helping out Friends of Hackmatack with their restoration work days, the environmental defenders can always use your help at our restoration work days. If you're a member, you'll hear about them in your e-news that Destiny sends out every Wednesday, and we truly, truly would love your help on we are specializing in roadside natural areas, so we love your help with removing invasives from those areas. And then Steve is one of our organizers for the work days that occur the last Sunday of every month at Stearns Fen here in Crystal Lake. The defenders are part of that restoration project, as well as obviously the Park District of Crystal Lake. And Steve was involved with that in his former job and has continued working with us there. And that restoration work day is every last Sunday of the month, 9 to 11 at Stearns Fen. And we would love to have your help there. We're making huge progress. So come and join us.
On July 22nd is the next best management practices talks and tours being put on by the Water and Natural Resources Protection Action Team with the environmental defenders. So on July 22nd, the presentation will be about managing natural landscaping. And where's that one at again, Nancy?
It's in Algonquin. And this one you'll want to go on, it's on our website, it's on our
Yes.
Facebook page and on our website.
And on our calendar.
And you'll want to register early. We're limiting the number of people that can attend this event to, I think, 30, because it's a walk. You can't hear well, when you get much above 30 people. So register early for that if you'd like to attend. Michelle Zimmerman, who works for the city of Algonquin, will be leading that event.
Okay. Anyone else? That's it. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.